with me today is Sarah Petersen, and she is Chairperson of Northland's Economic Development Agency, Northland Inc. How are you, Sarah?
Kia ora, Peter. How are you today?
I'm
it's
very
nice
well.
To see a new face.
Yes, we're all in our bubbles. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Hey, Sarah, it's a busy time for our Economic Development Agency, I'm guessing. What's the plan to avoid the worst of the looming COVID-inspired recession in Northland?
Look, Peter, you're absolutely right. This is a busy time, and there's really been a series of phases as we work through this lockdown. The initial phase for Northland Inc was really working out how to respond to the lockdown period and working alongside civil defence as part of their response. And I think we're now moving to that phase of how do we support the economic development recovery in Northland. And really we're seeing lots of agencies and businesses coming together now to determine what do we need to do, how do we need to work together in this new environment, and trying to determine what next steps from here. This is a very new environment for all of us, but certainly what we're finding is everybody is coming together and collaborating and connecting to find our way through this recovery.
Sarah, what do you think that Northland businesses can expect? What should we be preparing for? I guess the general tone in the series has been one of optimism, but I'm keen to understand that it's not misguided optimism. It's going to be pretty dire, isn't it?
Look, I think we're seeing as things progress that this is going to perhaps be tougher than we originally expected, and it's probably going to go for longer. You know, I think we can expect our GDP to drop in the region by at least 10%, and that compares to a decrease of around 3% during the GFC. I think we will see employment increase to double figures. And the reality is this probably is going to be a number of years for us to work through this recovery. But the reality is we went into this lockdown phase in Northland with some really strong momentum. There is going to be absolutely some tough times for businesses and for people. People will lose jobs through this, but there is equally going to be some superstars that will pivot and shift in this new environment. So I think we're absolutely going to have to expect some tough times for a while yet. But ultimately, we've got some really good things underway. There has been a lot of good work done to date, and there is a lot of collaboration already happening to make sure that we can keep that momentum and really try and respond with some urgency.
What do you think it's going to take to haul our region out of recession?
Look, over the last 5 years or so, Northland Inc has been working to our vision and our agreed statement of intent, and that is to strengthen, diversify and grow our economy. You know, the reality is post-COVID-19, that just becomes more urgent because that economic recovery will support our social well-being as we work through this recovery phase. But I don't think we need to reinvent the entire wheel. We entered this lockdown phase with momentum. We've done a lot of really good work. We know we can collaborate well. We've seen that with the PGF investments, and we've seen it with TTNEP, or the Taitokara Northland Economic Action Plan. You know, this action plan was established in 2016. It was refreshed in 2019, and it was based on Northland-wide collaboration with business, hapu and iwi, local and central government. And we know this action plan framework can deliver. We've got a working group that supports the delivery of that project. And the organisations, they know each other, they can already work together. So I think we can use some of those structures, and some of those projects will continue to stay relevant in the post-COVID world. But we're going to have to take stock or regroup and make sure that what we were doing when we entered lockdown are still the right things as we come out. And I think we want to use this opportunity to get a really clear vision about the strategy for Northland into the future.
Sarah, what do you think our priorities should be as a region, and how do those differ from other parts of New Zealand?
I think the first thing we need to focus on is delivering the key PGF projects that are underway, and I think we need to do this well, and we need to do that quickly. I think this particular crisis has really emphasised the importance of Northland's primary sector and our agriculture and horticultural sectors, and I think we've got some really resilient and tough people working in that sector who are currently working through one of the worst droughts we've seen. So reliable water supplies and irrigation into that sector has to be a priority. Now that we know we can work flexibly online from home, I think we need to use this new normal to attract or train skilled labour to respond to opportunities in the digital sector. And if we can speed up the rollout of broadband, and we can really create an ecosystem for new digital startups at places like the Orchard and other hubs, would be great. 35% of our population is Māori. So any recovery action that we take has to support equitable participation across our whole community and encourage Māori businesses. I think tourism's going to have it tough, and we know global visitors have gone for a while, but approximately 70% of our visitors to Northland are domestic. And we've had really good investment recently in things like our Twin Coast Discovery Framework, the Northland Journeys, and projects like Mania, Footprints of Kupe in the Hokianga. So we've got some really good things to show other New Zealanders, and I think Northland is going to be a really good place to visit in the new days of social distancing. I think also we might have the opportunity to redeploy people from sectors that have been really heavily impacted into growing and developing our green and blue infrastructure. So I'm thinking walks or cycleways, marine reserves, conservation and pest control. And ultimately, as we exit the situation we're in at the moment, that will set us up for tourism in a bit of a different way to what we currently see. I'd still like to see investment in a really capable marine sector that we have here in Northland. The dry dock that's been talked about, the relocation of the Navy longer term, and port redevelopment to make sure that we can get our primary sector produce to market quickly, I think continues to be an absolute priority. But we've got a really diverse Northland region, and we're going to have to make sure that we have really good quality data, and we're tracking all of those economic measures and metrics that are relevant for Northland. We're seeing really good national data, we're seeing really good data in that health sector. So I would like to see us really prioritise good Northland information to make sure that we know if we're having the impacts we're expecting, and to make sure we can shift quickly if we need to.
I would imagine that we'll be in a lot stronger place if we can implement all of that than we were before we went into this a couple of months ago.
Look, I think you're right, but we already had momentum in so many of those areas as we entered the lockdown phase. And we did enter lockdown with a growing economy and a really strong action plan in place. So I think we've had a break. We've in effect, had an enforced holiday at home for a while. And now we really need to assess whether those things we were doing pre-COVID are still relevant. A whole lot of it will still be really important, and some of it may need to change. And now we're going to see more investment into different projects across the region that potentially reboot our economy for the future.
Sarah Petersen, on that very positive note, thank you very much indeed for your time. It's been wonderful to talk to you today. All the very best to you and your bubble, and I look forward to seeing you in person before too long.
Stay safe, Pete.